Good day everyone. So for today, I will be discussing the Deped organizational structures. But before that, I'm going to give you first some backgrounds on the new organizational structures of the central, regional, and schools divisions offices of the Department of Education. First, in August 2001, Republic Act Number 9155, an act instituting a framework for governance for basic education, establishing authority and accountability, renaming the Department of Education, Culture and Sports as the Department of Education and for other purposes. So in here, it is also known as the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. It provided a framework for the governance of education, decentralizing governance to the field, and making the schools and learning centers the heart of the education system. The law also established the authority and accountability of the various organization levels of the Department of Education. Next, in October 2004, Executive Order Number 366, directing a strategic review of the operations and organizations of the executive branch and providing options and incentives for government employees who may be affected by the rationalization of the functions and agencies of the executive branch was issued. So, in here, according to Section 2 of the said executive order, the initiative aims to focus government efforts and resources on its vital or core service, improve the quality and efficiency of government services delivery by eliminating or minimizing overlaps and duplication, and improving agency performance through the rationalization of service delivery and support systems and organization structure and staffing. Next, in December 2011, Deped embarked on the review and revision of its rationalization plan based on RA 9155 and long-term reforms needed in the education sector to respond to fast-changing demands of the local and global environment. Next, number 4, on October 15, 2013, the Deped Rationalization Plan was approved by the Department of Budget and Management. The approval included the rationalized structure and staffing pattern of offices at the central, regional, and schools division levels. So, let us now proceed to the rationale of the organizational structures. So first, the rationalized organizational structure and staffing patterns were a result of the thorough study of the Deped Change Management Team or the CMT on the current structures, functions, and staffing complement of the Deped offices vis-a-vis the long-term education reforms, requirements of the learners and the changing environment, and national government policies. Next, the approved organizational structures are consistent with the provisions of RA 9155 in applying the principles of decentralization and shared governance to ensure accountability and relevance to the context and development needs of the learners and stakeholders of the various organizational levels. Number 3, in developing the organizational structures, the Deped CMT also identified the themes or organizational strands common to all levels of the department. These organizational strands reflect the similarity of functions and objectives of offices and units. The organizational strands are as follows. First, Office of the Secretary. The Office of the Secretary provides overall leadership and direction at the national level. Attached and support agencies to DepEd are included under OSEC or the Office of the Secretary. Next, number 2, curriculum and instruction. This strand ensures that the organization focuses on the delivery of a relevant, responsive, and effective basic education curriculum around which all other strands and offices provide support. Number 3, strategic management. This strand enables the organization to focus on long-term directions and interface with the internal and external environment and stakeholders. Number 4, governance and operations. This strand ensures the capacity of the organization to continuously improve and be strategic in managing the environment for which teaching and learning takes place. So, in accordance with RA 9155, the Secretary of Education delegates the supervision of field offices, which is the regional and schools division offices, to the Undersecretary for Governance and Operations. Number 5, legal and legislative affairs. This strand enhances capacity of the organization to deal with legal matters and to be proactive in moving forward its legislative agenda. Number 6, finance and administration. This strand ensures the efficiency to support the organization as a whole to focus on its core business and thus attain its targets through the provision of finance and administrative services. The following organizational actions were taken on the existing offices. Number 1, offices to be retained or renamed in the new structure. Number 2, offices to be transferred to other services or organizational strands. Number 3, offices to be merged or consolidated due to similarity in objectives or functions. 4, offices to be upgraded or elevated to address critical functions or adhere to existing government issuance. Number 5, offices to be abolished but whose functions will be absorbed by other offices in the rationalized structure, and offices to be created to address critical functions performed by ad committees or prescribed by government issuance. Next, based on these actions, the following information are included in this order. Enclosure number 1, which presents the actions taken on the existing offices at the central, regional, and schools division levels. Enclosure number 2 presents the official organizational structures for the Deped, central, regional, and schools division offices. Enclosure number 3 presents the counterpart offices of each organizational level according to the organizational strands, and enclosure number 4, which presents the general functions of each office in each organizational level. Number 9. The regional and schools division offices are categorized based on size classification. The size classification will also determine the minimum staffing complement allocated to the following offices. First one is the regional offices shall be classified as small, medium, or large, and schools divisions offices or the SDOs shall be classified as small, medium, large, or very large. Next, new offices to be established shall follow the approved organizational and staffing standards agreed upon by the Deped and DBM. Next is the transitory provisions. So in here, given the chances in the organizational structures and functions of Deped offices, the offices are given until the end of December 2015 to complete their transition and be operational in the rationalized structures. The completion of the transition may be in different phases for offices due to their nature and scope and their respective transition processes. So next, the new Bureau of Human Resource and Organization Development under the Office of the Undersecretary for Governance and Operations shall take the lead in managing the transition of offices and personnel to the rationalized structures. This shall be done in collaboration with the heads of offices for each strand or bureau or service or division or unit. The BHROD shall identify appropriate strategies and mechanisms in the following areas. First one is the personnel actions like placement, transfers, and others. Number 2, human resource development programs such as recruitment and selection, onboarding, and capacity building. Number 3, physical infrastructure and locations of offices. Number 4, identification, revision, and mapping of corporate processes and systems. Number 5, rule clarification of personnel offices based on the new functions. Number 6, policy review and adjustments and communications and management of change. So, for the Deped Central Office, the following guidelines shall be followed. First, communications will be addressed to the heads of offices. Number 2, for new offices and those with no authorized head of office, the secretary shall designate an officer in charge to lead the bureau and manage the transition activities. Number 3, personnel transferring to other offices may already do so provided the following conditions are present. Agreements have been made with the current office on the completion of deliverables and proper turnover of responsibilities to ensure smooth transition and continuity of program operations, and of course, the availability of physical space in the recipient office to accommodate the transferring of employees. Number 4, guidelines. Movements of offices to new location shall be on staggered basis depending on the schedule of physical renovations and repairs. So next, the new organizational structures as indicated in enclosure number 2 at the central, regional, and schools division levels shall supersede previous issuance and policies pertaining to the old titles and functions of the offices. All existing Deped memoranda orders and other administrative issuance of similar nature which are inconsistent with this order are hereby deemed repealed and superseded accordingly. Immediate dissemination of and strict compliance with this order is directed. So that's it for my discussion on the Deped organizational structures. Thank you for listening.